So, we'll be going over the fourth dimension. But what is a fourth dimension? What even are dimensions? Alright, let's start from scratch. What is a dimension? So the first dimension is a line. Think of a number line. You can tell where a dot is based on the x-axis. Now the second dimension has upgraded to regular shapes. Think of a coordinate graph. You can tell where the shape is based on the x and y-axis. This dimension includes squares, triangles, circles, any 2D object you can think of. The third dimension have objects that we see in everyday life. This cube, this creepy looking panda, all of these amazing pigs. We can draw this graph in 3D coordinate system. A bit obvious on the name, but this graph has 3 axes: the y-axis, the x-axis, and the z-axis. This is generally why we think our world is 3D. The space we walk in, the objects we hold, have 3 dimensions. Now, what about the fourth dimension? Some have theorized that the fourth dimension is related to time. But how? If our world were composed of events, of 3D events, it would make sense that compiling all of these 3D events would allow us to experience what we know as time. Think of the axes comparisons. But this time, there's another axis that represents the time going forward. But the only issue is that we only know time as going forward. No one has learned of time travel yet. No one can go back in time. So is there another way to look at the fourth dimension without using time? Well, yes, we can use the 4D dimension as an extra physical dimension. The easiest way to do this is actually observing how a 2D person might look at 3D objects falling into their world. In that same train of thought, it will be easier for us to learn about the fourth dimension with our 3D eyes. So let's take a trip to the 2D dimension. Alright, so this is 2D dude named Bob. He can only walk in 2 dimensions, and the lines act as walls for him. A square is very secure for him. No one in the 2D world can get in. However, if we put this into our 3D perspective, this money is easy to steal. We can just reach in the safe through another dimension, the z-axis, and take the money. This would probably be the same for a 4D person. They would be able to get into our secure 3D safes. But what else can we do with Bob? Let's try to make him observe 3D objects in his 2D world. Let's drop a cube in his world. He would be able to see the cross-sections of the cube as all squares. Easy. It's not too hard to understand a cube. What if we drop the cube in his world, edge first? This lovely video shows how the shape morphs, first from a strange triangle, and then slowly changing. Poor Bob. His brain probably would explode when he realizes that this confusing 3D object is the same as the square he was introduced before as being the simple cube. But we're not 2D people. Let's see how 4D objects would appear in our world. These videos show 4D objects, but the picture being shown is actually the 3D shadow of the 4D object. This is similar to how when a 3D object casts a shadow, the shadow itself is 2D. In summary, we learned more about how we can see the fourth dimension. We also learned more about other dimensions, and we met this cool 2D guy named Bob.